What's happening, guys? Today I've got a super cool guest for you, a good friend of mine, my buddy Levi Lascsak. What's happening, Levi?
What's up, Carlos? How you doing?
Good, man. So I connected with Levi through a mutual friend of ours. We talked back and forth. I've written some copy for him, and him and his buddy Travis Plumb are master marketers, and they apply it in the real estate space. I mean, these guys are crushing it. I mean, some of the stuff I've read about them is it's a little insane. Like how the hell they went from $0 in real estate to $121 million in sales in, like, what was it, 15 months or something crazy?
That was 2 years.
2 years,
18
years,
months.
dude. Yeah, not too shabby, man. Not too shabby. For some of the folks who may not know who you are, can you kind of give us a little bit of an idea of who you are? Why did you get into real estate, and how are you such a good marketer, man?
I'm a good marketer because I'm a good student, is really what it comes down to. And yeah, I mean, I've got a friend, his name is Michael Reese. I sold gym memberships with him at Bally Total Fitness whenever I got out of the military. So it was one of my first jobs. I was dead broke, looking for an opportunity. And Michael hired me on at Bally Total Fitness, which is not a gym, by the way. That was a sales organization. So they taught me how to sell. It was all about selling those gym memberships. And he took me to my first Brian Tracy event whenever I was probably about 21 years old. And I never heard or thought of like self-education or reading books or, other than the Bible. That's what I was raised on, right? Just read the Bible. That's all you need. But so I'd never even been exposed to that whole world. And at the time, Brian Tracy was touring around the United States. He would give a free seminar, like a free one-day seminar. And then of course he would sell all of his CDs at the end. Right. And I just remember I was just so taken back. I went back to the room. I was dead broke, but I had just gotten this one credit card with a $300 limit on it that Capital One sent me for some reason. I never even applied for it. I think they just said, here you go. And I was like, okay, I'll keep this for emergencies. Well, I went back there and maxed out that credit card. I bought 8 programs, I believe, like the psychology of selling and the psychology of winning and just whatever programs he had. And they were like the 6-disc CD sets, and I had this Volkswagen Jetta that had the 6-disc CD changer in the trunk,
Taking it back to the 90s.
Oh yeah, baby. I was like, man, this is super cool because I can put all 6 CDs in my 6 CD disc changer and listen to that whenever I was cruising back and forth to the gym. So I just immersed myself in that sort of self-education since I was about 21, 22 years old. And it just always stuck with me. So it's funny because people are always asking me if I heard the latest song or knew the latest artist. And I was kind of like, I couldn't tell you because I was always listening to CDs in my car. And that's just what I did. So fast forward, I've been successful throughout the years. I never got into real estate, but I ended up getting deployed with the military because I was still in the reserves at that time. And then in 2004, I got activated, of course, because of September 11th. Right. I spent 18 months on deployment. 12 months of those was in Iraq. And whenever I was, about 24 years old. So, lived in a combat zone for 12 months and, just really put a lot of things in perspective whenever I came home. And I got into selling cell phones. And, I got recruited for that position, but I used to sell cell phones at Costco. But the reason I was the best person at selling gym memberships, which I always was the best salesperson, when I sold gym memberships with Mike, I was number one. Why? Because I made the most phone calls. When I started to sell cell phones at Costco, I was the best salesperson. Why? Because I talked to the most people that came through the door. I tried to talk to every single person because nobody goes to Costco to buy cell phones, right? They go there to buy 500 rolls of toilet paper. And so I would have to pull them in and get them into the booth and ask them a bunch of qualifying questions. But I was willing to do that when most people would sit back in the booth and just wait for one person once a week to come in to buy a cell phone specifically. So from there, that got me recruited to a pharmaceutical company. And that I got into pharma sales and I became the best salesperson there because I figured out how to maximize my route, be able to see the right amount of doctors at the right times and go in at the least busiest time and, all these little hacks and tricks. And I just navigated my way through that. And then that got me into financial services, where I started my own business at that point. And I started working with teachers on retirement planning at Dallas ISD. And that was very lucrative. I loved it because I had 5 times the teacher income, but I had like a teacher schedule. So then I realized I'd never been anywhere in my life, started traveling the world, took summers off, 2 weeks off for Christmas, a week off for Thanksgiving, had a great time and was just loving life, was building up this residual income. And because I was helping them on the retirement account, so I was getting paid off the accounts, and then 2020 happened and the world shut down, and school shut down. So there I was at 41. Yes, all that progressed over the next 20 years. And there I was at 41 going, okay, well, the world shut down, schools are shut down, my business is shut down. What's the next move? Like, I mean, where do you go from? I'm not going to get a job because they just had 30 million layoffs, in the middle of 2020.
Right.
And what business am I going to start other than, am I going to be a toilet paper salesperson or, is there another option? And really real estate was one of the only industries that was really started to grow during 2020. And I've got really good friends that are real estate agents, and they've been trying to get me into real estate, but I did not want to be a real estate agent. Why
so? Why is that?
Because I think every real estate agent has an ulterior motive, which is, oh, I love your shirt. Oh, you shop there too. Oh, I love that car. By the way, here's my business card. I'm a real estate agent. And if you ever think about buying or selling a home, please call me, So it was one of those, that's what I felt like. I felt like every agent had an ulterior motive, and it wasn't something I was interested either, like starting over from the bottom, from scratch and prospecting, because that's why I was so good at gym memberships, because I made the most phone calls. I prospected the most. I out prospected everybody, which is why I outsold everybody. I talked to the most people at Costco, out prospected everybody, which is why I outsold everybody. In pharmaceuticals, I talked to the most doctors, saw them, in between appointments, figured out the right times to be there. And so that's why I was the best salesperson. When I started working with teachers, I emailed like crazy to get those appointments. So I'd have 3 to 5 appointments a day, and I outsold everybody because I was willing to send the most emails. So when I got, and I just thought I was just tired of prospecting is what it came down to. And I was tired of prospecting, and it scared me to death to think about starting over again in any industry, not just real estate, but any industry. But I didn't really know, what am I going to do or where am I going to go? And that's what's funny is I started to research over 2020. I pushed all my chips in the middle of the table. I spent all my money, everything I had. I invested over $161,000 in cash into 2 Amazon stores. I bought into this $17,000 mentorship, which is where I met you, because that group brought you in as a guest to discuss copywriting. And so that's where I learned of you. Now, I didn't really get much else out of that mentorship other than really, meeting you, which, led to other opportunity down the road. But being exposed, I would say, yes. The thing is that when you invest money in something like a $17,000 mentorship or a mastermind, most people won't do that because they'll look at that cost, right? They'll think about the cost today. They don't look at the value tomorrow. So I would say at that time, even I didn't have the money to do it, but I did it anyways. I didn't know what it was going to return me monetarily right that moment. And it didn't for, almost 2 years until I got into this business, started becoming successful, realized I needed good copy. And then what do? I go back and I've got somebody, a contact, a person that I know and, trust to be able to do that. And I've also seen their work over the last couple of years and other things they do. So that's what, so now I could say that benefit, that monetary, contribution or investment 3 years ago finally gave me the return I was looking for, but you may not know that. But again, I was pushing all the chips in the middle of the table. And I also spent $20,000 on courses because I thought, well, if I'm going to get into real estate, I'd rather be an investor versus an agent. So I bought money on all these real estate investment courses, wholesaling, fix and flipping, all that stuff. And what I learned in those courses was how to cold call, how to door knock, how to send out postcards, and basically how to be a good prospector. And I was I was like, I don't want to be a prospector. So that got me to start thinking differently. I started to ask myself, could I really attract business? Is there a way to attract business? I'm just tired of prospecting. I don't want to do it anymore. I want to build something that is so good that people find it on their own and they determine, to give me a call. And is that even possible? I mean, I was antisocial. Remember, I was 41. So I'm at that age range where you have this love-hate relationship with social media, which means I didn't grow up with it in high school. It wasn't there in college, and it came around in the my late 20s. And then what did I think? I thought it was everybody bragging, posting their lunch and silly cat videos. So I didn't see the utility in social media. But I knew at this point, fast forward 10 years, and I'm going, okay, I'm now looking at all these 20 and 30-year-olds starting to make money off of social. So I'm like, okay, that's probably somewhere I'm going to have to go. And even though I didn't want to be a social media person, I thought I've got to start looking into that. I got to figure out if there's a way to truly attract business this way. So I started to look at all those different platforms, and none of them really set well with me or my personality. And I just couldn't see myself being an Instagrammer or a Facebooker or a TikToker, and I was just like, just something doesn't sit well with me. And YouTube was the last choice. So what I learned though, was that YouTube's a search engine. It's not a social media platform. And so that kind of gave me insight to really start thinking differently. And then I wasn't a great real estate agent. Actually, I'd never been a real estate agent. So therefore, how was I going to make content about being a good real estate agent? And then I realized, well, YouTube's a search engine. People are not searching for real estate agents. They're searching to learn about areas to live in. What's it like to live there? And once I figured that out, I was like, oh, well, I've lived in Dallas for 20 years. I know the neighborhoods. I know the suburbs. I know the things to do, the places to eat, the hidden gems. I can make some content around that. So that's what I started to build content off of and making videos. And sure enough, the phone started ringing and people started to say, hey, love your videos. And you look like you're an expert in Dallas. Can you help us find a home? And the funny thing is not a single person ever asked me how long had I been in business, how many homes have I sold, what brokerage was I with, was I a top producer? Never any of that, because I was so knowledgeable on the areas. They just assumed all of that. So it was funny, whenever I did the first transaction, those people thought we were like real estate rock stars, and experts. And we were like, oh shit, our first one, all right, let's try not to screw this one up. And that's kind of how it started. I did a lot of research. Once I decided on YouTube, which that was another decision point for me, I wanted to find one platform. I didn't want to get on every single platform. I think everybody tells everybody else to do that, especially when you start a new business or you get into real estate. They're always like, okay, go open your Facebook and your Instagram and your TikTok and your business page. And and people do that. And then they're like, oh, now I've got all these accounts. Now I've got to create content for all of them. And then they get overwhelmed. They don't do anything, or they're putting 20% effort across 5 different platforms, and they never truly understand or master one. So I knew that going in. And so that's why I was really looking for one platform to get ahead of and study and focus on one platform. Cause I knew, I was like, if I can really generate business from one platform, it'll be a lot easier to venture onto the other ones. And whenever I decided on YouTube, doing that with YouTube, then I just went all in on YouTube. And really, I still haven't ventured off into the other platforms, because this one has returned so much business for us that I'm just thinking now about continually going deeper and deeper on YouTube versus trying to spread myself thin and trying to figure out TikTok or Instagram now, And so we just keep working on that and growing from there. But how I became that marketer was from trial and error, but it also came from, 20 years of experience. What I realized soon after that was I wasn't starting over. I was starting with 20 years of sales and marketing in my back pocket. I just had to think differently and apply things differently if I wanted to get different results. And so as soon as you open up your mind and you start asking yourself, how do I find a solution? How do I do things differently? You'll likely find an answer for that. If you shut down and say, that's not going to work, or I don't think it's going to work, or there's no way to fix this, you'll never find a solution. So it's just continually being open. And plus, I had been, after meeting those guys that I was involved with, where I met you, that opened me up prematurely. I mean, I wasn't even in real estate at that time, but it got me start thinking about marketing funnels, and that led me to other people and discovering other books and reading more and more. And so I just started to consume as much as possible, not knowing where it was going to go. But I thought, man, I need to understand the foundation and the principles of this type of thing as well, because what I did realize was that I was always a great salesperson, but marketing, if I ever want to get out of it, it's all about the marketing. And so I decided it's time to stop being the best salesperson and figure out how to be the best marketer.
That is so incredible. One of the things that I noticed kind of like through everything that you're saying, it seems like you've got, you mentioned it right as I was typing it in my notes here. I'm like, it sounds like Levi's got an all-in mentality, right? So like when you pick something, you go all in, whether that's a course. I mean, we can start even from like military, right? I mean, you don't just go in there with 1 foot in, 1 foot out, right? So you went all in on that. Came out, went all in on some of these jobs, became the top salesperson, went all in on learning in a time where most people would contract and get really scared and nervous, or like during the 2020 or whatever. You're the person who went and said, well, I need to learn some new skills, or I need to do this. So you even invested in like education, went all in on that. My question is, where have you always been like that? How does someone develop this kind of all-in mentality? Like, where does that come from?
I mean, I really think I was born with it.
Yeah, that's the short answer. That's probably the truth too.
Well, it's funny because this sort of thing comes up. This question comes up quite often now. And I had to start thinking about it, because I was like always wondering, okay, where did this come from? And I started thinking back as far back as childhood. And I just remember, by the time I was 5, 6 years old, I loved Legos. I loved building Legos, but I would build them as fast as possible by the instructions and then set them up in my display. It was always I was always an organized person. I never thought of it at that time, but thinking back to it, I remember, okay, all my Legos were in the right spot at the right place. And so I had organizational skills from an early age. I found out from my dad that I was reading by the time I was 2 years old. Whoa. And starting to at least starting to put sentences together and follow along. And so I started to pick that up very quickly. And I'm not saying that to discourage anybody, but I do think there's some things that you can be born with, but at the same time, the drive and the discipline is really what's going to sustain you. And so I grew up in a very religious environment, actually a very isolationist environment, to where growing up, there wasn't a lot of interaction, outside of our church and things like that. And so I was always kind of in this mindset of this, very, very isolationist mentality is really what it comes down to. And then also growing up, my parents were always like, it's funny, my dad's calling me right now. And,
we'll
but
bring them on the show, bro.
Yeah, we grow up, they always said, can't afford that. We don't have money for that. So I also kind of grew up in this poor mindset. There was never any education around growth and expansion. And I remember I wanted to be an astronaut, probably like a lot of kids growing up in the 80s and 90s. And nothing against my parents, but they never said, hey, here's a popular mechanics magazine, you should build on that, or you can be anything you want, Levi. If you want to do that, here's what you need. They just were kind of like, okay, and then went about their day. So I wasn't developed into anything. So I just think that I eternally had that personality trait to be really good, which sometimes makes me think, man, what would have happened if they would have encouraged that type of thing. But, I can't change history, and I know I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. But by the time I got out, and got into the military, I think the military just enhanced what was kind of internal for me. And it had a little bit more structure and a little bit more direction. And that was something I fed off of. But whenever I got home, I still had to figure things out. But then whenever I met Mike and I got into selling memberships, Bally's had a sales program. And what I did was I never try to reinvent the wheel. I always say, okay, who's at the top? How did they get there? Can I model that? Can I adjust it to fit my personality? And then can I change it and actually do better than them? So I always start out with looking at who's done this and who's done it really well. And let me follow that path for the time being, but I'm likely going to figure out a shortcut or a better way or a faster way or something like that. And then I want to try to win, right? I want to try to beat them. And then I'm always finding out what was your first year like, right? What did you do? What was your, so that competitive nature and that sort of mentality, I think there is always a little bit of that embedded, but if I didn't take action and I didn't work on that and then also have the discipline to go with it, I wouldn't have enhanced that. So, those are the things that whether you feel you're that person or not, motivation comes and goes, but it's the discipline and the consistency that will determine your success, in my opinion.
Yeah. That was actually one of the things I was going to ask you was how the military actually affected you, because I would assume that if you had this naturally inside, that the military would kind of help. I don't know if nurture is the right word, but kind of like foster, grow it or something like that. Because I mean, I've never been in the military, but all my friends said it's a very disciplined lifestyle. They're still doing their beds when they wake up in the morning and stuff like that, so it kind of makes sense that, like you said, it probably did help a little bit, I would suppose, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. But the reason I got out of the military is because I learned soon enough that you get promoted and pay raises based on your years of service and your time in your rank. And so it's this pay scale that just kind of is flat and has a little up, then it's flat and it has a little up. So, I could do better than them in the military, but let's say we come in at the exact same time, I could outperform them, do better, return in better results and everything. And 2 years down the road, we might get the exact same promotion and the exact same pay raise. And I do think there's some opportunities maybe where you can kind of jump ahead, but they're very limited. Otherwise, you're just kind of like years of service and how long have you been in your rank. And that usually, all you got to do is pass a test and you'll likely get the promotion, right? It's not like man, you really knocked that out in 3 months versus 18 months. So let's give you a promotion. So I realized then I thought my potential was always greater than that. And so I thought, I can make a lot more in the civilian life than in the military. Although I probably could have been very happy staying in for 20 years, but other than that, I didn't want to be limited on that aspect.
Yeah. You mentioned not wanting to do prospecting again. And so I love how you coined the term, or you and Travis, I'm not sure who came up with it, but passive prospecting. I love the shirt, says it right there. So tell us a little bit more about that. Is that, I know you're doing it with YouTube, and maybe you can kind of dive into like the strategy of how you kind of touched on it already a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, everyone, I believe, what's everybody working for, in the end? I think it seems like everybody's working towards passive income, because passive income is, and really, what does that mean? That means freedom, I believe. In my opinion, passive income is freedom, because if you have the income not based on your efforts at that time, then you have the freedom to do what you want when you want. Now, that could be you have $1 million in the bank. It could be you have a Social Security check every single month. Social Security is a passive income, but it takes you 50 years to get there, right? Yeah. So, or you can build a business and maybe you get to a passive income by the time you're 30 years old. But the thing is I think that seems to be the end goal is retirement, which is really, to me, means time and money freedom. So that concept was just kind of like sticking in my mind all the time. And that's what got me thinking. And I was like, what? Prospecting, what do you got to do though? It's a catch-22, because passive income takes a lot of work in the beginning to get there, a lot. So it just made me think, why not? What if you could, get there passively on the way to that path, versus all the activity, all the working and as things started to progress through video, and that's really what it's about. I mean, yes, YouTube is our primary platform, and I believe YouTube is the best platform you can do this through, but it's really video is passively prospecting. And I mean, actually postcards could be passively prospecting, right? You could send out a round of postcards. You could send out a round of emails, based on copy. Email marketing is kind of like passive prospecting. The thing is that most of that takes money. You either got to pay somebody to write that copy, or you got to pay for the postcards to go out. And so, but also you can only send out one round of emails, at a time. You can only send out one round of postcards at a time. A video can get 10,000 views in the same minute or the same hour from people all over the world. And the next hour, it could get another 10,000 views from completely different people at the same minute, at the same, so there's no limitations on that. And if you've ever said, I wish there was just more of me, well, make a video. If you make a video, you just doubled yourself. If you make 2 videos, you tripled yourself. If you make 3 videos, you quadrupled yourself. And I think if you make 10 or 20 or 50 or 100 videos, you have more of you out there, and people are finding that, and that video is doing the prospecting for you. So once you do the activity once, it's going to continually give you the return on a passive basis. So it's just like if you make it to Social Security by the time you're 70, hey, you made it. You made it to 70 one time. And guess what? Now you're going to get a check every single month. You make it to, $5 million in the bank, and that's your number. And it's going to pay you out this much every year for the next, 30 or 40 years. Guess what? You made it. You worked up to there. And so the same thing. I made a video one time, put it out there. It starts to go to work for me. And people call us every single day from those videos. And so during this whole time, I've never made an outbound phone call. I've never sent out a postcard. I've never knocked on a door, but yet we're helping hundreds of clients and doing hundreds of transactions and millions in commissions from video. And that's what has allowed us to scale as well, because I'm not tied down to prospecting 2 hours every single day, which is what most agents have to do. They always say, make your calls 2 hours every single day, if you want to stay consistent. I was just at a conference yesterday. They're like, make your calls 1 hour a day for survival, make your calls 2 hours a day for, to break even in your business, make your calls 3 hours a day, every day, to thrive in this market. They even have it broken down. That's what this coach was saying from stage, which is like, I've done the math and the numbers over and over and over again. And you got to make, calls 3 hours a day. You've got to make 95 calls, over 3 hours. And that's going to get you to this amount, so he had it calculated. He knew, but to me, that's not passive prospecting. That's active prospecting.
That's active prospecting.
Yeah.
Very active.
Yeah, that's very active. And guess what you're doing? That's those 3 hours, I'm able to scale my business in other ways. And so I'm using that time instead of prospecting to duplicate myself either through other team members or other systems or business development or new partnerships or all these other opportunities that come around. And it's a really cool thing. Plus, when I go on vacation, guess what? The videos are doing all the
prospecting.
They're still prospecting. If I want to take the weekend off, they're still prospecting. If I want to take a month off, still prospecting. So that is passive prospecting. It's doing the work once on a certain activity, like making a video, and then letting that video go to work for you.
Yeah, you mentioned how you also look at the people who may be a little bit further ahead, and you're like, all right, now how do I get there? What did they do? And you really analyze that. It was funny because you posted something maybe a day ago. I don't even remember. It was a day or two ago, something, and you're like, you guys are doing such a ridiculous volume, at least from my point of view. I'm like, that's a lot of volume. That's no wonder why you're like in the top 10 or something for the company and like total revenue. And then I was like, but what the hell is this person in number 1 doing? And then you had the answer. I mean, I sent it next, I put my phone down, I sent you a question like, what the hell? You guys are crushing it. What the hell is like this other person in the 1 spot doing? And you had that, you're like, team, you had the answer already. And I was like, oh, Levi doesn't mess around, dude. He already knows how to get to number 1. It's just time. How long is it going to take to get to number 1? I guess one of the things I'm wondering is, because you guys have such a really good passive prospecting system and you're able to get leads coming to you and you don't have to waste your time doing all of these outbound prospecting methods. When someone joins your team, like as an agent, are you guys able to fill their calendar up, or do they have to do videos themselves? I'm curious how that works.
Yeah, mostly. I mean, right now we've limited it to our top 3 or 4 agents. So, we've got about 10 agents on our local team, and it's just that's not enough to fill 10 agents. So we want it to be on a production-based opportunity as well. So our top 3 that's their reward. If they're doing closing business, bringing their own personal business to the table, then we reward them with being in what we call the YouTube lead rotation. So they get those deals because they're the easiest clients to work with. I mean, the video builds the relationship for you. That's the great thing about it, is when clients call us, they've already made the decision they want to work with us. Think about it. It's all inbound calls, and they're picking up the phone to reach out to us. And so they're saying, hey, love your videos, love your content. I want to work with you. I choose you. I mean, that's what they're saying on the first phone call. And we're like, great. Well, all right, let's get going. So it's really great. It's unlike anything I've ever done in my whole life as far as business. I mean, it's the best way in my opinion, because they just come to us every single day. So yeah, we do that. Travis cherry picks a little bit, so he definitely takes the high dollar ticket, the high ticket items, the high ticket clients, you could say, and focuses on that. But that way he can do less transactions as well, more volume. But we still, I mean, our teams that are in that rotation get $750 million, buyers all the time. So they're very happy. We paid out last year to our team over $1 million in commissions for just YouTube. So
Wow.
we had 5 team members make over 6 figures just from the YouTube leads we gave them.
Oh man, that's a sign of a good company. When the owners are just crushing it, that's one thing, and that's awesome. But when like the people working under them are also crushing it, making great money, and you're able to build their lifestyle up, like that's huge, man. Now you're not just affecting your life, you're really transforming the lives of a lot of these other people. What have you found to be more I don't know if like beneficial, if that's the right word, but when you compare like long form videos on YouTube versus shorts, do you focus on one over the other? Like maybe you can kind of shine some light on that.
I mean, we do all long form. I've experimented a couple of times. Yeah, I do. I experimented a couple of times with shorts, but we just haven't stayed. I mean, long form content converts. I mean, I'm sure you know the stats. I mean, it takes the more content people consume, the more of the relationship they develop with you. And they say on average, it takes over 6 minutes of video for somebody to feel like they know you. Well, I can do that in one long form video, or I can do it in 12 30-second videos. And I've got to bet on the fact that they'll see 12 videos as to where our average view durations on most of our videos are over 9 minutes. So
that's your average view.
Yep. View duration. So that means if they watch one of our videos on average, they're watching it for 9 minutes. And so we're already getting them locked in on one sitting, versus short form content. If we make a 30-second, video, or even if it's 60 seconds, they would have to see 6 of those to even have familiarity with us. So, so you would have to bet on the fact that they're going to see 6 some point in time, and they may not ever see that 6th one. So will they ever get to that? And I don't know a lot of people that buy $1 million homes off of a 60-second video either. I mean, it can happen. I know a few people that have done it, but at the same time, people that are on YouTube are researching, they're intentional. And that's what we like to distinguish between interruption versus intentional based marketing. Shorts, Instagram, TikTok is interruption marketing. So nobody says, hey, it's time to buy a house. Let's go on Instagram and see if we can find a really cool agent. Or, hey, it's time to buy a house. Let's go on TikTok and see if we can find the best dancing real estate agent. They don't say that. They don't go to those platforms to look for homes, right? But they'll go on YouTube and search areas. Hey, what area do I want to live in? What areas have the best schools? What areas have low crime? They start searching. So they're intentional on YouTube. They're actually typing things into the search bar specifically. And that's why we target the neighborhoods and the suburbs and everything else, because if they search those areas, our videos are going to pop up, and then they start watching them. If you go into Instagram, I mean, not the strongest search engine out there, right? Type in Dallas, Texas, and you're going to get a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah. True,
So, yeah, I mean, we believe long form converts the best. I'm not opposed to short form. I know people that do business from it. We just haven't focused on that.
Yeah, it's so funny that you mentioned that, because I thought it was going to be the opposite answer, just because there's such a, like, I'm doing shorts and stuff because I'm like, hey, everyone's saying do shorts, so I just started doing shorts. Now you're telling me this, I'm like, maybe I need to start combining some long form.
No, what we're doing right now is we're making longer videos.
What do you, well, longer videos than like what you're normally been doing?
Yeah, on average, my videos would be 20, 25 minutes. Now I'm making 40, 45-minute videos. I'm going to try to push to hour-long video, because remember, people are buying a home. This is a big decision for them, and they're in research mode. So the more they have to consume, and the more we can give them, the more they're going to get likely locked in with us and our personality and wanting us to help them. So it's funny because I still have videos on the channel. We like to create evergreen content, which means it's relevant, at any time, any place, any day of the year, month, or, day that somebody finds it. So, and most of our videos that are still performing from 2 years ago, a lot of them are 35 minutes and longer. So YouTube is still pushing those out, and that's what YouTube's pushing to people, because YouTube's #1 goal is time on platform. So what do you think? If they want people to stay on a platform longer, wouldn't it make sense that they provide people longer videos? Because if they're in a research mode and they're thinking about making a big decision, especially on real estate, they're probably going to watch that video. So I'm looking at our videos and I'm going, all our videos that are still like up there with our current videos that we're publishing are 35 minutes or longer, which I did that a couple of years ago, experimenting with longer videos to see. And sure enough, they're still going strong, still getting views, growing. You're seeing upticks like in the analytics, like jump ups and push outs, and that's YouTube still promoting those videos. So I'm going, okay, all right, how do we get back to that? And so, I just went out, the next video we are publishing is going to be 41 minutes. So, and that's a lot. And so now we're just like, well, shoot, we used to try to trim things down and really just give, some of the top content for an area. But I'm like, no, let's include it all now. Let's, we got to make it interesting, but let's include as much as possible, make it a longer video and see how that turns out. But I think longer content is the way to go.
Wow. Totally counterintuitive to me. I did not expect that at all. I was thinking shorter, better, all this stuff. Like, I'm taking notes, man. I'm taking notes on everything you're saying. So when you see me pull up my phone, I'm not texting. Yeah. I'm note taking here. What are some tips for people to get more views? Because for myself, I don't have a big audience on YouTube. It's barely anybody. And I'm sure people who may be watching this, if they're like real estate agents or anyone else, that's one of the questions for sure that's going through their head. It's like, well, Levi, you've been doing this for so long. Of course you have tons of views. How did you go from when you first started not having any subscribers to actually growing? Like, were there any tricks and tips and stuff for that?
The ultimate answer is to make better videos.
Sure.
So if you want more views, more subscribers, make better videos. And we geared a lot of our stuff around search. So we research what people are searching. And that's the thing. I like to say that, look, if you're in the desert, and YouTube is a desert, it's vast, right? Billions of videos.
Desert.
Yeah.
Arizona.
Yeah. Okay. So you're in the desert in Arizona. You got 50 gallons of water. Now, if you're wandering around, if you sit in one spot and just sit in one spot, you're just sitting there, you're waiting, hoping people will find you, right? And so you're just like, okay, well, I hope people find me. I've got all this water. It's amazing. It's the best water in the world, but nobody's finding me. I'm hanging out in one spot. But if you had a GPS coordinates and it told you, hey, there's 30 people over here, there's 50 people over here, there's 80 people over here, and you're like, okay, I'm going to go walk and take 50 gallons over to that 30 people that are really just 50 yards away. They would never see me from, that far, but I'm going to walk over there. Do you think they'll drink the water?
Of course.
And do you think they'll follow you around the desert after?
Of course, absolutely.
So that's what we're doing with search. We're searching what people are already looking for. And then we're like, okay, let's make videos on that subject. So we're finding what people are looking for in Dallas, Texas real estate. And you can do this in any business. What questions are do they want answered? You can do this in copywriting. What copywriting questions do people want answered? And you start making the videos that answer those questions. And guess what? There's an audience there already looking for that information. So that's how you grow sooner rather than later, I believe, because if you just create content that you want to create, well, that's great. I just think that's the longer path. You're going to have to wait for people to find you and connect with you and say, oh, I kind of like this and I'm going to stick around. That's what you're doing. If you're creating videos on YouTube, you're sitting in the desert in one spot waiting. Hopefully somebody will walk by eventually, right? That's what you're doing. So when you look and you go on, search engines and you go onto YouTube, you go onto TubeBuddy, the software, and you type in copywriting, it's going to start popping up all this stuff. And then you type in, copywriting secrets, copywriting funnels, copywriting emails, and you start to see what the search volume is. It may tell you copywriting for Instagram posts may have 500,000 searches when copywriting email has 200,000 or maybe 50,000 searches. And so you're like, well, shit, why don't I just make a video on copywriting for Instagram post first, because it has the much higher search volume versus what I want to do, which my specialty is emails, right? And so it takes you out of the picture and it puts you in front of the audience that's already looking for the information.
Dude, that's gold. You answered my question before I even asked it. I was like, what is this tool that we can use? Where can I use it? So TubeBuddy, I suppose.
Yeah, TubeBuddy. Yep.
Okay.
If you want to help us out, you just go to tubebuddy.com/ the real agents, REEL agents. And then you can type in the discount code passive prospecting buddy 25 and you can get 25% discount.
Passive
prospecting buddy.
Okay. Yep. 25. You're gonna get a commission after this from me. Prospecting buddy 25. Okay, I love that. Yeah, this is sick, man. This is sick. This is like a consultation call, really, because this is where I'm getting all of my questions answered, because I'm starting to upload on YouTube, and this comparison of being in the desert really resonates with me, because I'm kind of sitting there doing videos of like, I'm just going to do 3 videos a day is what I told myself. So I've been doing that, but I'm just making videos up on the fly. I'm like, let's talk about this today. Let's talk about that. I know if I throw my daughter in there, it gets way more views. They're going to use that as a hook. So we're going to grab my daughter more often for some videos. But this gives me a real systematic approach of like, here are the types of people I want to go after, and like, how do I go after them? And so that's super helpful. A lot of people talk about, I guess, making your stuff clickbaity or what's it like the thumbnail? How important is like the thumbnail, I guess I should say? Like, is that something you should just hire a guy on Fiverr to do for all your videos? Is it worth it? Is it like, just do it whenever you're already kind of seeing momentum? What are your thoughts on that?
No, I think it's very important from the beginning, and some will say it's 70% of the battle. So if you don't have something that is clickable, it doesn't have to be clickbaity, but it needs to be clickable. And also you might want to look at, if you're going to do a video on copywriting emails, I would type that in YouTube and see what pops up, and look at the top 3 or 4 thumbnails and then say, okay, can I make one better than these 3? If those are the top 3 that are popping up, how do I make it better than those 3 if I want to get clicked on over them? So that's how you can do kind of the research on that. But yeah, we're very visual creatures. Your eyes process an image in 0.7 of a second. So you think about every time you open up YouTube, what do you see? You see thumbnails, and either people are going to look or they're going to start typing in the search bar. You're going to have to get yourself established to get put on people's home screen. But if they start searching and they start typing in, I want to learn about copywriting secrets or copywriting emails or email copywriting. If they type that in, most people, it's in our book, I forgot the exact stat, but most people will click within one of the top 3 to 5 search results. They won't even scroll past that. Think about it. Wow. When's the last time you went to page 2 on Amazon when you searched for something? Yeah. When's the last time you went to page 2 for Google when you search something?
I never go to page 2 on YouTube now that I think of it. I type in poker stuff.
Yep.
Okay, I like poker. And so when I type in poker, I just click on the top few, just like you said. I never
Yep.
even thought about that.
Yep.
Wow, wow, wow. So you've got a sick book out. I'm in the process of reading it, Passive Prospecting. Well, I definitely suggest people get that. I don't know if that was what you wanted to push people to, but I definitely recommend it. I'm copywriter. I'm not a real estate agent, but I'm learning from this passive prospecting book that I believe is targeted towards real estate agents. But
No, actually, it's not. It's targeted toward entrepreneurs.
well, that's what it, because I'm going through it and I'm like, these guys are using their own examples in real estate, but it's like
Exactly.
all applicable. Like I'm looking at them like this is 100% applicable to what, that's why I started doing videos, by the
No,
way.
I wrote it that way purposefully because in all my travels, I've been doing a lot of speaking events, and I was in the airport, and I'm in the airport. I love airport bookstores. I love bookstores in general, but I was in the airport bookstore and I thought I was going to name the book YouTube for Real Estate. So that's what I was going to name it. But then I was in the airport one day and I go, you know what? YouTube for Real Estate will never be in the airport bookshelf. Never. It's way too niche. And so that just got me thinking differently. And I didn't have the name Passive Prospecting at first. And I can't even really remember where that dawned on me one day, but I was probably watching a video on passive income or something like that. And it just triggered for me. It was kind of like, man, passive prospecting, that's what we're doing. And then I realized that's the title of the book. That's the overreaching concept that's going to reach a much broader audience than YouTube for Real Estate, And so then it got me to think about how to format the book differently. Actually, what I started to think about was Ryan Serhant's book, who he wrote the foreword for Passive Prospecting, but I started to think about his book, Sell It Like Serhant. And then you think about, maybe Grant Cardone. And I thought, you know what did they do? Sell It Like Serhant is a sales book. He just uses real estate as his examples, but anybody could pick up that book and understand the sales concepts and principles. And so I thought, what we're doing really helps any small business owner, any entrepreneur. And if I write it to where it's all towards real estate agents, that will be my audience forever. And I don't want that. I want to expand outside of that. I want to grow this bigger than just real estate. And so I purposely wrote the book to be a little bit more generalized and to make sense to any entrepreneur that picks it up. I just use real estate as some examples.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's definitely helpful. Like I was saying, I was going through it because I'm like, obviously I'm writing some copy for you. I'm like, let's go read this guy's book. And as I'm reading it, I found myself taking less notes and just doing what you say, like it's a step-by-step action guide. And so I'm like, oh, look at this, man. This stuff isn't just for real estate. It can happen for my freelance business, etc. And so I definitely recommend it. But where can people learn more about you, man, if they want to connect with you, maybe get the book or even just work in any of your other programs and stuff? Where can folks learn more about you?
Yeah, passiveprospecting.com. So
best place.
Yeah. I couldn't believe it. The funny thing was, whenever I thought of passive prospecting, it seems like I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I thought, man, a great name. And so the first thing I do is like, is the domain available? Because before you start any business, you want to know, is the domain available? And I could not believe that domain. I got that domain for $10 on GoDaddy. I put in passiveprospecting.com and it was available. And I thought, okay, maybe this is a novel concept. And then I went to Amazon and I searched passive prospecting. Not a single book titled Passive Prospecting. Actually, one book popped up, which is called Fanatical Prospecting. I was like, opposite. I was like, nope. Okay, definitely. So, and then of course you can type in passive income and 1,000 books on Amazon will pop up for passive income. So I knew, I was like, you know what? This is a novel concept. And I think it's something that I know that any salesperson gets stuck. That's why sales has such a high turnover rate, because really people don't like the prospecting aspect of it. They don't like the rejection. And with passive prospecting, there's zero rejection. Nobody's ever called me and said, Levi, I hate your videos. I'm not going to do business with you. The people that don't want to do business with us never call us. So I never even know they exist. But the ones that do call us, have already made the decision they want to work with us. It's the easiest client you could ever work with when somebody calls you from a video. You will be blown away how it will change your business. And maybe it doesn't become all of your business, but if it supplements 10, 20, 30, 40, 50% of your business, you will do everything you can. Once you start working with them, you'll be like, I'm never cold calling or door knocking or, spending money on postcards. I think it'll change your mind very quickly, but you have to start working on it and building up that library and let it go to work for you.
So I, as you're talking about, quick, actually, maybe testimonial for you. Now that I'm thinking about this out loud, this person hasn't closed yet, but I assume they will. They, as soon as I started uploading these videos, I think within like the first week, I've only been doing this for less than a month, just uploading multiple videos per day. And within my first week, I want to say maybe within 2 weeks, I don't know. Anyways, within the first week or so, I had one lady, Sunny something or other, I can't remember her last name, but she was like, hey, I watched all of your, and I'm doing shorts, right? So I'm doing a ton of shorts. Now I'm going to be doing longer form videos. She's like, hey, I've seen all of your videos on YouTube, and she's commenting this. I'm like on the video. And like, do you have like any other courses or anything where I can like learn more about copywriting? And so I can't DM her on there. So what I did is that she had her actual, like her full proper name as her YouTube name. So I went, found her on Facebook, connected with her on Facebook, sent her a message. We talked a little bit, and she's like, okay, I'm going to save up a little bit of money, and I should be able to work with you in a couple of weeks. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. And I'm thinking about it now, like just in retrospect, because I'm like, I've only been doing this for like less than a month in regards to like uploading videos, and it's following the strategy you guys laying out in passive prospecting in the book. And I'm like less than 50 pages into the book, and I'm already kind of seeing some results. So this is from a copywriter point of view, guys.
And think about this, Carlos. I know what you like to do. I know what you like to do out in the desert. So imagine if you could, make a long form video, 10, 20, 30 minutes. You do that in the morning, boom, you post it on YouTube, and then you go to the desert and you go do what you want to do out in the desert, and you come back in a day or two or whatever. And then, yeah, you got stuff in your inbox, or it's on your phone. You're out there, checking your phone. You're like, cool, people are reaching out, but I'm not stuck sitting here 2 or 3 hours every single day. That's an extra 2 or 3 hours with my family. It's an extra 2 or 3 hours out in the desert. I can go camping. I can go, driving the 4-wheelers. I can play poker, whatever it is you want to do. That's what it's about. It's about doing a little bit of work and letting it compound. This is the whole concept of compounding your time. Everybody loves the concept of compound interest as well. So this is what you're doing. You're investing a minimal amount of your time, and once it starts to go to work for you, it's going to bring you compound returns. So, I would love to say our channel last year was watched 104,600 hours. Well, if you divide that by 24 hours in a day, that's equivalent to 12 years. So our channel prospected for us 12 years in 1 year.
Wow. What an interesting perspective. I wonder if you looked at it that way.
Yep.
Wow. Dude, that is powerful. That is powerful. Anybody that's watching this, make sure you follow Levi for sure. But just go to passiveprospecting.com. Check. It's a free book. Isn't it a free book? It's a free download or something like that on passive.
We don't have that up yet. Yeah.
No? All right. Well, it's like it's
$20 on Amazon.
$20 on Amazon, guys. Go check it out. Passive prospecting, or just go on Amazon. Like I said, type passive prospecting. Check it out. Definitely worth whatever, $20 or whatever it is, to drop in the bucket. So Levi, man, thank you so much for coming on here. It was so cool to talk to you, and I really appreciate it. Can't wait to talk to you some more, dude.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks, Carlos.